Peace, love, and light. How y'all doing? All right, look, I'm going to get the disclaimer out of the way, man. Got another piece of information for y'all. Um, all right, man. My content is for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough. You guys do your own research. Appraise my content. Inform me of any errors you find, so that I can make the appropriate corrections. None of us have lived long enough to know all that transpired yesterday, and none of us can live long enough to learn all there is to know. That being stated, man, anybody that watched my last video, man, it's a part on there that I wanted to bring your attention to, because it I started to make mention. Excuse me. Started to make mention of it while I was reading it. I did emphasize it, and I'm gonna remind you of the part that I was talking about. It was on the second, going into the third page. I'm gonna just read the the sentence. It says the federal corporate government also conveniently somehow forgot to disclose to the people that the term citizen, which with which they have made every living and breathing inhabitant a subject, was defined in law as a vessel engaged in commerce. Vessel. All right. That was the part that I wanted to bring to your attention because it's relevant to tonight's subject matter, which is understanding the birth registration process. All right. I know a lot of times, or a lot of people have heard, you know, uh, different individuals, whether it be a Moorish brother or sister, or, just anybody that's privy to the information, speak about, the birth certificate and social and all that old stuff there. Well, I have a piece of information I want to read to you that is directly related to that. All right. Okay. So here we go. Understanding the birth registration process. Remember, in admiralty law is basically the law of the sea. They call it maritime law. So when you hear that, that's what that's referring to. Remember, in admiralty, vessels documented by registration under the laws of the United States are entitled to privileges and subject to the obligations prescribed by the laws of the United States for merchant vessels. Remember, I just read to you in the one from the last video. Everybody was, defined in law as a vessel. So they're talking about people when they say vessel. Understand that too as I read on. All right. All right. To start out with, your parents, due to their prior birth registration, were already considered being registered documented vessels / mentally incompetent wards of the state, being under the guardianship of the state, who by legal marriage, whether that be common law or they did the marriage contract, were where the state is a third party to the marriage. Okay, they talking about the marriage contract in this particular instance, where the state is a third party to the marriage contract, had an offspring / ward, which they brought into this world by delivery. The act by which the res, I forget what res mean. I mean, that's a legal term at the end of the day, and it's not as important that I know what that means as it's important for you guys to get the understanding of this birth registration process. Again, I haven't, I haven't been really like going through a preparatory phase for these videos, lately. I just been, deciding on what I'm gonna put out there, based on, the feeling I got of what was going on in my day, whatever came to me, whatever I felt, moved to do. And that's how I've been doing it. So, pardon me for not, being able to give you the understanding of res, in this presentation for the video. All right. The act by which the res, the subject matter of a trust, or substance thereof, was placed within the actual constructive possession or control of another in the delivery room of the maternity ward of the hospital. And this is how they define the hospital: the port of entry for vessels / wards. All right. Now, that's just like, like for those of us that work at the port, when a ship docks, you know what I mean? The actual port is the port of entry, and when a vessel docks, that's basically relative to the process that they, your mother is the vessel, and when she docks, the cargo is you, the infant that's birthed. You know what I mean? It's a lot of symbolism in all this, man, because anyway, then they asked your mother for your legal name in upper lower case, which consists of one Christian name and one surname, which is the name on the record of live birth, written in upper and lower case letters. What your mother was not told is that she delivered you to an agent. Remember? The Matrix, the movie. An agent / licensed doctor of the state in a federally funded hospital. An act by which the res, the subject matter of a trust, okay, that must be the definition. The res is the subject matter of a trust, or substance thereof, was placed within the actual or constructive possession or control of another, the state, which in equity they created a certificate of live birth with all capital letters. You see what I'm saying? That's the corporate person right there. That's the straw man. They had to create that because the corporations can only deal with corporations. They can't deal with living, breathing, sentient beings. You get what I'm saying? This is the whole symbolism behind the Matrix. All right? And recorded that warehouse receipt. See, the birth certificate is actually a warehouse receipt in the commercial registry as cargo under transportation. So what I say, your mother was the vessel. She docked at the port of entry for vessels and wards. When she birthed you, you then were recorded They created the birth certificate with your name in all capital letters, and then in turn recorded that warehouse receipt, which is the birth certificate, in the commercial registry as cargo under transportation. Now, the contents of what's in the ships down at any port of entry, like the Port of Philadelphia, the Port of Wilmington, the contents in those vessels, those ships, is referred to as cargo. All right. The hospital documented your birth with the legal name title in a distinctive style or appellation, upper lower case, the name by which anything is known. And because under trust law, whenever title or money is transferred, a trust is created by operation of law. That's the Sestaquate. I believe that was, they was talking about the Sestaquate Trust. No, that was relevant to the straw man, basically. All right, pardon me. A trust is created by operation of law representing you, i.e. the straw man, for which they created a certificate of live birth in all capital letters, which was filed with the local registrar and registered with the state via certificate of registry. Pay attention to these terms, man. In commercial maritime law, what I tell you, maritime, which is a certificate of registration of a vessel according to the Registry Acts. That word registration, always be leery of that. Because it's regardless of whether they tell you or not, it's legal ramifications, it's definitely legal ramifications for doing that, and these good old lawyers ain't gonna tell you that. Anyway, for the purpose of giving her a national character, i.e., U.S, capital U.S, citizen, born in a federal zone. Remember, they enlarged the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. That puts you in the federal zone. Hospital zip code in the judicial district in which the berthing of the vessel occurred, identified by the filing with the Florida State Department of Health, Office of Vital Statistics, within 5 days after your delivery. Okay, so that means within 5 days after you're born, they file with the Florida State Department of Health Office of Vital Statistics, and then they send that filing to Washington, D.C., for which the hospital, check this out, receives a check for that vessel. Why you think they always say, well, what's the baby's name going to be so we can put it on the birth certificate? All right? They're getting a kickback every time they get one sent up the river. The local registrar issued your parents a copy of the warehouse receipt for the cargo for you. The certificate of birth from the state of Florida in all capital letters representing a vessel / ward of the state representing the abandonment of your title by registration. The state of Florida, the creator / trustor, then created a Sestaquate Trust, a constructive trust, behind your back after the fact, with all upper lowercase name and placed a value on it based on actuarial estimates of your future labor / human resource. And we ain't talking about the building, human resource. We talking about what is he or she forecasted to earn for us based off of how we constructed this society. Then they issued a bond against the trust's assets, a certificate of indebtedness, and funded the bond through the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, based on your future earnings from your labor as the contributing beneficiary, which is a trust asset Got to look up trust law. I got it here. I went into the archives and got some shit. You know what I mean? So that way, that at least, y'all will be able to write these terms and things down that y'all hear me saying. That way you can look these things up for yourself, man, and you'll see that, people that talk, like you hear me reading this stuff, and I've exposed this information to a few individuals in the past, and they was all looking at me like I was crazy. So a couple of them heard about it, and but at the end of the day, they like, yeah, nigga, you know what I mean? Show me when you got a demonstration, you know what I mean? Then I'll go ahead, you know what I mean? It's cool though. It just ain't sweet, man. It's like it's just like anything else, man. You got to work toward this thing, man. You got to study and graduate through the degrees of knowledge just to be able to understand this stuff, to, be able to interpret it, to be able to actually, put this thing in action, to be able to, be in a courtroom and properly, represent yourself and stand on your square, and handle yourself. It's not sweet. You know what I mean? It ain't sweet, man. You know what I mean? It's something that you really, you know what I mean? You really gotta study, man, and do your thing, man, to get right with this thing here. Okay. All right. All right. All right. And funded the bond through the IMF based on your future earnings from your labor as the contributing beneficiary, which is a trust asset, and set up a Federal Reserve account for the same. So now the IMF, International Monetary Fund, has a beneficial interest in and out of the trust estate. The legal title is now vested with the state of Florida and held by the Allen Property Custodian in Washington, D.C. Equitable title, copy of certificate of birth, held by you, representing equity / labor. The governor acting as the managing fiduciary trustee. Hold on, let me go back. I got to go back because listen to what I'm reading. Because every state got these same individuals in Congress and in your, city council and all that old stuff. I mean, the political stuff, man. You know what I mean? All that. But I'm going to go back. It says, so now the International Monetary Fund has a beneficial interest in and out of the trust estate. The legal title is now vested with the state of Florida and held by the Allen Property Custodian in Washington, D.C. Equitable title, copy of certificate of birth, held by you or your mother, father, whatever, representing equity / labor, your human resource. The governor acting as the managing fiduciary trustee. The Secretary of State registrar acting as fiduciary trustee until you turn of legal age, till you turn 18. And you acting as fiduciary trustee for the trust with duties and obligations once you turn of legal age. And the Secretary of Treasury in charge of the Federal Reserve account. And that's in every state. That's in every state, man. They got this thing locked, stocked, and barrel, man. They got it. They got this thing locked down. I'm telling you, man. You know what I mean? They call it the Matrix for a reason, man, because they got this thing cornered off. That's why when I tell you it ain't sweet, it ain't sweet. You see what I'm saying? You know, it's all right. That ward / vessel is now a vessel of the United States, documented by registration under the laws of the United States and subject to its laws and jurisdiction. And the title goes to the Allen property custodian in Washington, D.C. in a maritime in rem action. Jurisdiction over the person of the defendant, the vessel, is premised upon the presence of the vessel within the district in which the court sits. The only vessel they have jurisdiction over is the trust, the piece of paper they created. But see, the problem with that is, with your parents not knowing, and with you not knowing, that piece of paper with all capital letters looking like your name ain't you, then you unknowingly, unwittingly violating every aspect of contract law that there is. There's 6 elements that must be met. It violates all of them. You unknowingly consent to their jurisdiction. You're already listed as their property, but you substantiate their fraud unknowingly by signing the Social Security card as soon as you get 18. You know, us so-called black folks, you know, as soon as that motherfucker turn 18, I got a job waiting on him. He getting up out of this house. Thinking we doing something slick. We playing smooth into the trap. You know, because the more signatures you have, the harder it's going to be for you to get out. You see what I'm saying? Okay. The only vessel they have jurisdiction over is the trust. That is evidenced by the certificate of live birth, establishing the 3 points of jurisdiction: name, social security, name, social security number, and date of birth. All right. Now, the Federal Reserve account is under the supervision of the Secretary of the Treasury.